The human ship appeared suddenly in a region of space that had been quiet for decades. For years, this sector had been patrolled by alien fleets, who were confident that no unexpected visitors could reach their territory without notice. And then, out of nowhere, this massive human vessel entered the system. Its size alone was enough to make anyone pause. It was unlike anything the aliens had seen before, sleek, powerful, and somehow intimidating, even without firing a single weapon. From the bridge of one of the patrolling alien ships, the officers watched it with disbelief. "It shouldn't exist," one of them muttered. "Our records show that humans barely have interplanetary capability, let alone this." There was a sense of confusion in the air, mixed with curiosity. They had read reports of human exploration and minor skirmishes near their home systems, but nothing had prepared them for this. The ship wasn't just big, it radiated confidence. Its design, while unfamiliar, hinted at advanced technology, something the aliens could not immediately classify. The humans inside the ship, however, were calm. They had been trained for this moment for years, even decades. Their mission was simple: observe, protect, and avoid unnecessary conflict, while asserting that humanity had arrived and could not be ignored. Every movement of the ship was deliberate. Sensors scanned the surrounding area, recording every detail of the alien patrols, every energy signature, every communication channel. They were cautious but confident. They knew that in space, even the smallest mistake could be fatal, but they also knew the power they held. The aliens debated what to do. Some suggested sending a communication signal to establish contact peacefully. Others wanted to approach closer, to get a better look and perhaps intimidate the humans into leaving. Yet no one dared act too quickly. Something about the human ship made them uneasy. It wasn't just the size or the technology. It was the presence, the way it seemed to move through space, as if it owned it. For the first time in their experience, they were not certain they could predict what humans would do next. Minutes felt like hours as both sides calculated their next moves. On the alien ships, officers consulted star maps and tactical systems. They called for backup, unsure if this human vessel was a single anomaly or part of a larger fleet. The humans, meanwhile, remained silent on open channels, letting the aliens make their own assumptions. Silence, in this situation, was a weapon. By not revealing their capabilities or intentions, humans created tension, uncertainty, and fear. It was a calculated approach, one that many civilizations failed to master. Finally, one alien commander decided to break the silence. A message was sent in the clearest possible tone. "Identify yourselves. Leave this sector immediately. This area is restricted." The words were firm, authoritative, and carried the weight of centuries of control. The aliens believed that any reasonable species would understand the warning and comply. Inside the human ship, the message was received with calm attention. No alarms went off. No sudden maneuvers. The humans read the words, processed them, and then responded not with words, but with action. Sensors were recalibrated, shields reinforced, and defensive systems brought online. Every officer aboard understood the plan. They had not come this far to be intimidated. They had not built this ship, trained for years, and crossed countless light years only to be told to turn back. The alien fleet interpreted the lack of immediate response as hesitation, perhaps fear. Some were confident that the humans were unsure or unprepared. That overconfidence would soon become a critical mistake. They began to close in, sending one vessel ahead to scan the human ship more closely. Their approach was deliberate, meant to display authority and control. But as the first alien ship came near, it was suddenly enveloped in a strange, invisible field. Its systems began to flicker, sensors went offline, and its engines struggled. Panic spread across the crew, as they tried to regain control. On the human ship, the operators watched calmly. No one shouted, no one panicked. Their training had prepared them for moments like this, where patience and precision were more powerful than brute force. The humans were not attacking, they were demonstrating capability. The alien ship was immobilized, not destroyed, its crew unharmed, but completely dependent on the humans' mercy. It was a message without words, and it was clear. Humanity was not to be trifled with. Back on the alien command ship, confusion turned into alarm. How can they do this without weapons? One officer exclaimed. Their ship doesn't even appear to be armed. Others could only shake their heads. They had studied countless species and technologies, but this human vessel defied all expectations. It was not just the technology, it was the human determination behind it. The alien officers began to understand that they were dealing with a species that did not rely solely on numbers or traditional firepower. Humans had something more unpredictable: creativity, strategy, and courage. The humans, meanwhile, did not celebrate. They did not taunt or gloat. They remained vigilant, knowing that any misstep could escalate the situation into open conflict. Their goal was not destruction, it was presence. They wanted to show that humanity had arrived on a level where it could not be ignored, and they wanted the aliens to respect that without bloodshed. The calm control of the humans contrasted sharply with the panic and confusion of the alien crew. It was an exercise in restraint and power, a balance that only humans seemed capable of maintaining. Hours passed, though it felt like a lifetime to the alien fleet. They maintained their distance now, sending cautious probes instead of ships, testing the limits of the human ship's abilities. Every probe that approached was carefully neutralized or rerouted with precision that left no doubt. The humans could have destroyed them in moments, but chose not to. This restraint was even more frightening than aggression, because it revealed calculation, intelligence, and the willingness to act if provoked. By the time the first shift of humans had completed their observations, the alien fleet had fully realized that they were facing something unprecedented. The human ship slowly moved away, leaving the sector as quietly as it had entered. There were no explosions, no dramatic battles, yet the impact was far greater than any engagement in recent memory. The aliens watched, stunned, as the ship disappeared into the darkness of space. That single arrival had changed everything. The aliens now understood that humanity was not to be underestimated. They had come expecting a primitive species, perhaps capable of minor skirmishes, but certainly no threat to organized fleets. Instead, they had encountered strategy, courage, and precision in a package that no one had anticipated. Humanity's reputation, once limited to curiosity and minor exploration, had now expanded to fear, respect, and caution. And for the humans, it was just the beginning. Their mission was not to conquer, not to destroy, but to make sure that everyone understood that humanity had arrived. They had crossed vast distances, faced unknown risks, and maintained discipline under pressure. The ship, its crew, and their calm determination had spoken louder than words ever could. The galaxy had been warned, whether it wanted to listen or not. From that moment, the humans knew the truth of space. In the void between stars, respect is earned not by violence alone, but by the courage to face the unknown, the wisdom to act with precision, and the strength to remain calm when all else fears. Their arrival was a statement, a reminder, and a challenge. A galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The alien fleet was stunned. They had expected resistance, maybe even fear, but what they witnessed from the human ship was something entirely new. It wasn't aggression, yet it was impossible to ignore. The humans had arrived, demonstrated power, and then disappeared just as calmly. For the alien commanders, that silence weighed heavier than any explosion could. It was a quiet threat, one that demanded careful consideration. Inside the human ship, the atmosphere was focused but calm. The crew moved efficiently, checking systems, recording data, and analyzing the alien reactions. There was no celebration, no boasting. They understood that the first encounter was only the beginning. In the vast emptiness of space, every decision carried consequences, and every action could spark conflict. They were trained for situations like this, situations where presence alone could shift power balances. But they also knew the importance of patience. Acting too soon or too aggressively could make enemies out of civilizations that could otherwise be allies. Meanwhile, the alien commanders held urgent meetings on their command ships. "We cannot underestimate them," one said. Their response to our warnings was deliberate. They didn't speak. They didn't retreat. They simply waited. That is far more dangerous than an outright attack. Other commanders argued. Some wanted to send more ships to intimidate the humans, to show strength and regain authority. Others advised caution, fearing that provocation could escalate beyond control. It was the first time the aliens faced a species that was both unpredictable and clearly capable of defending itself in ways they could not immediately counter. The debate continued for hours, with no clear solution. The alien fleet was split between pride and fear, curiosity and caution. They had seen countless species over the centuries, some powerful, some weak, but none had forced them into this position of uncertainty. Every calculation, every tactical prediction seemed to fail when applied to the humans. It was frustrating, unsettling, and for some, terrifying. The humans had changed the rules of engagement simply by existing in that space, not back on the human ship. There was a sense of calm, authority. The crew monitored alien communications carefully, noting every tone, every hesitation, every signal. They were observers first, warriors second. Every human on the bridge understood that their silence and restraint were themselves a form of power. By not responding aggressively, by not revealing all their capabilities, they forced the aliens to make decisions in uncertainty. It was a calculated move that could deter conflict without firing a single shot. Despite the humans' restraint, the aliens misinterpreted their silence. Some believed the humans were indecisive or unsure, perhaps unprepared to act if provoked. This assumption only encouraged a few reckless officers to take initiative. They launched small exploratory ships toward the human vessel, intending to scan it more closely, and if necessary, intimidate the crew into retreat. But the humans anticipated this. Every probe, every small ship was carefully observed, tracked, and neutralized, not destroyed, but rendered harmless. In moments, the aliens realized that even their smallest acts of provocation could be turned against them with precise, controlled efficiency. From the perspective of the humans, this was exactly the lesson they intended to impart. They had not come to start a war, but they had come to assert presence. They wanted the galaxy to understand that humanity was capable of defending itself, capable of unpredictable strategy, and capable of controlling a situation without resorting to destruction. Every action was intentional, every movement designed to teach caution without unnecessary bloodshed. The alien commanders, however, were slow to understand this lesson. Their frustration grew as their attempts to provoke or intimidate failed repeatedly. Communication attempts went unanswered. Probes and ships returned damaged, systems frozen or redirected, with no one aboard harmed. They could not comprehend why a species that appeared smaller, weaker, or technologically behind in other ways could respond with such precision. It challenged everything they thought they knew about humans and about power itself. One senior officer finally spoke during a tense meeting. "We may have misjudged them entirely. They are not reckless. They are not aggressive, yet they are capable of overwhelming force. They do not fight as we expect. They do not attack openly, yet their control is absolute. We are dealing with something we cannot predict using our usual methods. The words echoed in the command room. For many, it was a realization that brought both fear and grudging respect. Humanity was no longer a minor player in this sector of space. They were now a force that demanded caution, planning, and respect. The humans, meanwhile, continued their quiet monitoring. Sensors scanned, data was collected, and careful notes were made of alien reactions. Every hesitation, every misstep by the alien fleet was recorded. The crew knew that understanding an enemy or potential enemy was more valuable than a battle. Knowledge was power, and they had it in abundance. They moved with quiet confidence, aware that their presence alone was enough to disrupt centuries of alien control in this region. Time passed, and the tension in the sector did not ease. Alien ships hovered at a cautious distance, reluctant to approach too closely, but unwilling to leave entirely. The humans maintained the same calm vigilance. They did not pursue, they did not harass, but they made it clear that they were watching, and that they were ready to act if necessary. The human strategy was simple: presence and precision over rash action, deterrence without provocation. In private, some alien officers admitted their growing fear. "They are not like other species," one whispered to a colleague. "They are unpredictable. They are patient. They are intelligent. And worst of all, they do not appear to fear us. That makes them more dangerous than any fleet we have faced before." The statement spread quietly as a new understanding took root among the alien ranks. Humanity had introduced a variable they could not calculate, a force that did not behave according to conventional expectations. As the humans prepared to continue their journey, they left the aliens with one final silent warning. The ship shifted course, moving slowly but unmistakably away from the sector, but its presence lingered in every sensor, in every calculation, and in every officer's mind. The aliens realized that this was not a retreat, it was a demonstration of control. Humanity had arrived, had shown strength, and had left without conflict. Yet the memory of that presence would remain, shaping decisions and strategy for years to come. The sector that had once been predictable was now uncertain. The humans had changed the landscape simply by entering it, showing that one ship, one crew, and one determined species could alter the balance of power without firing a single weapon. The aliens understood that caution would be necessary in every future encounter. Humanity had not sought to dominate, but their very existence demanded respect. They had proven that in the vast emptiness of space, calm intelligence, careful observation, and precise action could be more powerful than fleets, weapons, or intimidation. And for the humans, the experience was a confirmation of everything they had trained for. They had not acted out of aggression or ego, but with purpose, strategy, and patience. They had arrived as observers, yet left as a force the galaxy would not ignore. Their mission had succeeded. They had shown that humanity, even with a single ship, could stand against the unknown and emerge with reputation, respect, and control. As the alien fleet watched the human vessel disappear into the darkness of space, a new understanding spread among them. No longer could they assume that humans were weak, primitive, or predictable. The humans had arrived with calm power, and that calm power was far more terrifying than any explosion, any salvo of weapons, or any display of brute strength. It was a reminder that humanity's approach was different, unexpected, and utterly effective. From that moment onward, the humans were no longer just a curiosity to the alien fleets. They were a new standard, a measure of strategy and courage that would shape interactions across the galaxy. Every decision made in that sector from that day forward would carry the memory of the human ship, the silent warning that it brought, and the knowledge that one determined species could rewrite the rules simply by being willing to face the unknown. With intelligence, courage, and patience, the galaxy had learned a lesson. Whether it wanted to or not, humanity had arrived, and it was not to be underestimated. Every cautious move, every strategic calculation, and every silent action of the human ship had spoken louder than words ever could. The aliens now had a choice: respect, fear, or miscalculate. And history had already shown that miscalculating humanity came at a price. The tension in the sector had reached a level the alien fleet had never experienced before. They had expected humans to be cautious, maybe even fearful, but what they witnessed now was unlike anything in their history. The humans were calm, precise, and deliberate. They didn't make sudden moves, didn't fire weapons, and didn't respond to threats in ways the aliens could predict. Yet despite this, the humans had complete control over the situation, and the realization began to unsettle even the most confident alien officers. The aliens decided to test the humans further. One of their smaller warships was dispatched closer to the human vessel, intending to scan it and perhaps intimidate the crew into showing their intentions. The alien officers believed that the humans would retreat or at least respond with caution. They expected hesitation, uncertainty, or fear. But the human crew had already anticipated such a move. Every sensor, every scanner, and every monitoring system was active. They tracked the approaching ship down to the smallest detail, noting its energy output, movement pattern, and even the subtle changes in the crew's communication signals. As the alien ship drew near, it suddenly slowed. Systems began to flicker, alarms blared, and controls became unresponsive. Panic spread quickly among the alien crew as they realized that they were no longer in control of their own ship. It wasn't being attacked in the traditional sense. There were no weapons fired, no explosions, no visible damage. Yet they could not move, could not communicate effectively with their fleet, and could not carry out their planned maneuvers. The humans on their ship observed everything with quiet focus. No one panicked. No one raised their voice. Their actions were deliberate, measured, and precise. They were not attacking. They were demonstrating capability. By disabling the alien vessel without harming anyone, they sent a clear message. We are powerful, and we are in control, but we do not seek unnecessary conflict. It was a statement that left no room for misinterpretation. The humans could protect themselves, and they would, but they chose restraint over destruction. Back on the alien command ship, confusion turned into alarm. Officers who had been confident in their fleet's superiority now questioned everything they thought they knew about humans. How can they do this without weapons? One whispered. Our sensors show nothing, yet their control over our systems is absolute. Others nodded grimly, understanding the truth of the statement. Humans were not just another species to be dismissed. They were intelligent, strategic, and utterly unpredictable. Every attempt to provoke or intimidate them had failed. The alien commanders realized they were facing a new kind of threat, not one defined by raw power or overwhelming numbers, but by intelligence, strategy, and the ability to act precisely at the right moment. The humans did not need to attack to show their dominance. They simply had to demonstrate their capability and restraint. That subtle, quiet approach was far more effective than any conventional battle tactic the aliens had encountered. Inside the human ship, the crew continued their careful observation. Every reaction from the alien fleet was noted, every hesitation and misstep recorded. They were gathering information, understanding their potential adversaries, and preparing for any scenario. Their training had prepared them for combat, for emergencies, and for unexpected challenges, but the priority was always control, observation, and precision. By maintaining calm, they forced the aliens to reveal their own weaknesses and tendencies without firing a single shot. The immobilized alien ship eventually regained partial control. But the experience had left the crew shaken. They were unharmed. But the realization that a single human vessel could neutralize them so completely was sobering. Officers discussed the incident in hushed tones, acknowledging the humans' unique combination of skill, technology, and strategy. Fear was mixed with respect, but one thing was clear. The aliens could not treat humanity as they had other species. The situation escalated subtly. Other alien vessels attempted to approach the human ship cautiously, each one moving slightly faster than the last, hoping to test the limits of human control. Yet each attempt was met with the same precise, calculated response. Systems were disabled, energy output was redirected, and ships were immobilized, all without harm to their crews. The humans had created an invisible boundary, one that the aliens could not cross without consequences. Every move was deliberate, sending a clear signal. Do not underestimate us. Do not provoke us. Respect our presence. The human crew remained calm, but internally they were aware of the psychological impact of their actions. By demonstrating power without aggression, they were teaching the aliens a lesson in respect and caution. They were not seeking conflict, but they were prepared for it. Every officer understood that restraint could be just as powerful as a full-scale attack, and that the human approach to conflict was unique, combining intelligence, strategy, and foresight. The alien fleet, meanwhile, struggled to regain composure. Officers debated strategies, recalibrated sensors, and consulted ancient records of other encounters, trying to understand what they had witnessed. They had dealt with aggressive species, cunning species, and unpredictable species before, but humans combined all three qualities in a way they had never seen. Each attempt to predict human behavior failed. Each expectation was proven wrong. The realization that one species could outmaneuver entire fleets without firing a weapon was both terrifying and humbling. In private, senior alien commanders admitted that their assumptions about humanity had been flawed. They had assumed that humans were primitive, unprepared, and predictable. Yet the humans had disproven every expectation. They had acted with patience, precision, and intelligence, demonstrating a level of strategy that the aliens could not anticipate. The very calmness of the humans had become their greatest weapon, turning fear and uncertainty into a tool for deterrence. The humans, aware of the impact of their actions, prepared to move on. Their mission was not to conquer or to dominate. It was to establish presence, demonstrate capability, and gather knowledge. They had achieved all three objectives. As the ship slowly altered its course, it left behind a fleet of alien vessels that were both stunned and cautious. The humans had not fired a shot, yet they had achieved far more than a traditional attack could have got as the human vessel moved further into space. Sensors continued to record alien reactions. Every hesitation, every recalibration, and every discussion among the alien fleet was logged for future analysis. The humans understood that information and understanding could be more powerful than weapons, and that knowledge of an opponent's behavior could determine the outcome of future encounters. Their mission had been about presence, strategy, and learning, and in that, it had been a resounding success. For the aliens, the encounter would not be forgotten. They had faced a species that did not behave according to conventional expectations. A species that combined intelligence, strategy, and restraint in a way that demanded respect. The human ship had changed the perception of humanity forever, establishing a reputation that would influence interactions in the sector for decades to come. The human crew remained vigilant yet calm. They had shown that even a single ship, guided by capable officers and a well-trained crew, could alter the balance of power. They had acted with precision, avoided unnecessary conflict, and achieved their objectives without violence. Their journey had demonstrated that courage, intelligence, and calm decision-making could be more powerful than fleets of ships or displays of aggression. as the humans continued into deeper space. The alien fleet maintained a cautious distance. The lesson had been learned. Provoke humanity, and the consequences would be immediate, precise, and unavoidable. But the humans had also demonstrated that they sought understanding, not destruction. They had established a new standard, a new expectation for interactions with humans in this region of space. The encounter became a turning point. The aliens realized that their assumptions about humanity had been incomplete, flawed, and dangerous. One ship, operated by disciplined and intelligent humans, had created fear, respect, and caution in a fleet that had faced countless species and technologies over centuries. The humans had proven that strategy, patience, and precision could outweigh brute force, and that understanding an opponent was as important as any weapon. The human crew, aware of the significance of their mission, continued their journey with the quiet confidence. They knew that they had established a presence, conveyed capability, and earned a degree of respect that would influence every future interaction in this sector. Their calm, measured approach had succeeded where aggression could have failed, and their strategy had left an impression that would resonate far beyond this encounter. By the time the human ship moved completely out of range, the alien fleet had begun to reassess everything. Plans were rewritten, protocols adjusted, and assumptions reevaluated. The humans had shown that they could not be measured by conventional standards. Their approach was different, unpredictable, and highly effective. The fleet understood that from this moment on, every encounter with humans would require caution, respect, and careful planning. The lesson was clear. Humans were no longer just a curiosity or a minor threat. They were a species capable of altering the balance of power with intellect. After the first encounters, the alien commanders were in a state of constant deliberation. They could not understand humans fully, nor predict their next moves. Every attempt to analyze or anticipate human behavior only revealed gaps in their knowledge. For the first time in centuries, they faced a species that refused to be measured by traditional standards. The humans had shown restraint, power, and strategy all at once, and that combination created uncertainty that weighed heavily on the alien fleets. The alien leaders called an emergency council. Officers argued heatedly, trying to decide whether humanity was a threat, an ally, or something entirely different. "We must strike before they grow stronger," one commander insisted. "They are dangerous, and their silence is only a form of confidence. If we wait, they may dominate this sector." Another officer, equally experienced, shook his head. "No," they said, "we do not understand their methods. Every provocation we have tried has failed. Attacking now may be disastrous. We need information, not war." The debate continued late into their equivalent of night cycles, with no consensus reached. Meanwhile, the human ship moved slowly through the sector, maintaining awareness of every alien movement. The crew was alert but calm. Their sensors picked up changes in alien formations, shifts in patrol routes, and subtle communication signals that revealed growing tension. Humans understood that their presence alone had already disrupted the local balance of power. They were patient, knowing that every reaction from the aliens offered more insight into how to handle future encounters. One of the alien fleets decided to approach cautiously, sending a small delegation ship toward the human vessel with a message of diplomacy. They hoped that communication could resolve uncertainty or at least establish rules for interaction. The humans received the message, but did not respond immediately. Instead, they carefully monitored the approaching ship, analyzing the message, its tone, and its timing. Every movement was deliberate. Humans were not going to reveal weakness, nor were they going to act recklessly. Their silence was intentional, a demonstration of control and strategy. The alien delegation began to feel tension. The humans' calmness, their refusal to respond hastily, created an unsettling feeling. The delegation officers had expected anxiety, nervousness, or haste. Instead, they encountered measured observation. The humans were not just ready, they were confident in their abilities and their understanding of the situation. That confidence was invisible but felt, and it began to shape alien perceptions. Hours passed. The alien fleet continued to debate, increasingly aware of the humans' strategic patience. Each officer began to understand that their previous assumptions about humanity had been flawed. They were not a species to be intimidated, bargained with, or underestimated. Every encounter, no matter how minor, required careful calculation. They could not predict human responses, and that unpredictability was a source of both caution and fear. Inside the human ship, the crew maintained their routine. They monitored energy readings, scanned for unusual activity, and carefully documented every alien maneuver. Yet beneath the calm, every officer knew that one misstep by themselves or by the aliens could trigger conflict. They moved with purpose, prepared to defend themselves if necessary, but always preferring intelligence and observation over aggression. It was a philosophy that had been honed over decades of training. They had learned that knowledge, patience, and precision could be more effective than brute force. The alien delegation attempted to make contact again, this time with a signal that was formal, polite, and respectful. "We wish to understand your intentions," the message said. "Your presence here is unprecedented. We ask for clarity and cooperation." The human crew received the message, noted the tone, and then transmitted a carefully composed response, not revealing full capability, but establishing awareness. Their message was calm, measured, and non-threatening, yet it carried authority. "We are here to observe and to ensure our presence is recognized. We seek no conflict, but we are capable of defense if necessary. Respect our presence as we respect this space." The alien officers studied the response in silence. Their initial arrogance had been replaced by genuine concern. They realized that the humans were not reactive. They were proactive, but in a subtle and strategic way. Humans had not attacked, yet every action and inaction communicated power. The aliens understood that traditional tactics of intimidation or provocation were ineffective. The humans had rewritten the rules of engagement. Without firing a single shot. As the day progressed, the humans continued their careful monitoring. They tracked patrol patterns, scanned communication networks, and observed fleet coordination. Every piece of information gathered would be valuable in future encounters. The human crew knew that understanding their potential adversaries was as important as knowing how to defend themselves. In space, knowledge was power, and they had more than enough. Meanwhile, alien commanders attempted to assert authority, but hesitation grew with each passing hour. Every move they considered was weighed against the potential consequences of misjudging humanity. The humans' calm, deliberate approach forced the aliens to reconsider centuries of tactics. They had faced aggressive species before, cunning species, even unpredictable species, but humans were a combination of all three in a way they had never seen. They were intelligent, patient, and capable of precise action. And they were unpredictable. The human ship remained vigilant, but there was no unnecessary tension among the crew. They had trained for encounters like this, and they trusted their skills, their systems, and each other. Every officer understood the importance of calm decision-making and measured action. They had proven that restraint could be just as powerful as aggression. The alien fleet would soon understand that lesson fully. If they had not already in the alien council, frustration began to mount. Some officers wanted to act, to assert control, to test human limits. Others urged caution, warning that any misstep could lead to disaster. The humans' presence had created a dilemma unlike any other the aliens had faced. Their calm, deliberate approach forced the aliens to act in ways they were unprepared for. The humans had turned observation into a weapon, patience into a strategy, and restraint into influence. For the humans, every interaction was a learning experience. They studied alien tactics, interpreted communications, and gathered behavioral data. They did not seek dominance, but they had established a presence, a subtle authority, and a reputation for precise intelligence. The crew understood that in space, the perception of capability could be as important as actual power. Humans had achieved both, without conflict. By the time the human ship moved toward a safer trajectory, the alien fleet had reached a tentative consensus. They would maintain caution, monitor humans carefully, and avoid provocative actions. The humans had demonstrated that they were not to be underestimated. One ship had changed the perception of an entire sector, establishing a level of respect that no fleet could ignore. The human crew reflected on the encounter. They had achieved their goals: observation, preservation, and deterrence. They had gathered valuable intelligence, maintained safety, and established a presence that would resonate far beyond this single encounter. Their approach had proven effective, demonstrating that courage, intelligence, and restraint were as powerful as any weapon. The alien fleet, for the first time, acknowledged the unique nature of humanity. They realized that one human ship with a well-trained crew could change the dynamics of power in a region without aggression. Humans had introduced uncertainty, strategy, and intelligence into a situation that previously had been predictable. They had demonstrated that power was not always about firepower. It could be about control, observation, and the calculated use of capability. As the human vessel continued its journey, the alien fleets watched cautiously, their officers adjusting strategies, protocols, and assumptions. The humans had made their presence known, and the galaxy had taken notice. The encounter had reshaped perceptions, introduced caution, and established humanity as a species capable of influencing outcomes far beyond their numbers. In the days that followed, every alien commander in the sector would remember the human ship. They would recount the calm, precise, and deliberate actions of a crew that had managed to demonstrate power, deter aggression, and gather intelligence without firing a single weapon. Humanity had shown that understanding, patience, and strategy could alter the balance of power as effectively as any battle. The humans, meanwhile, prepared for the next stage of their mission. They had made a statement without conflict, gathered knowledge without risk, and demonstrated presence without aggression. Their approach was simple, yet effective. Observe carefully, act deliberately, and never underestimate the value of calm intelligence. They had proven that restraint could be more powerful than any attack, and that control of information, movement, and perception could establish authority as surely as any fleet could. By the time the human ship left the sector completely, it had established a reputation that would shape future interactions for years. The alien fleets would remember the calm, calculated, and deliberate nature of the humans, and every decision from that point onward would carry the influence of this encounter. Humanity had arrived. The alien fleets were silent, observing the humans as they moved through the sector. Their previous confidence had been replaced with careful calculation and even fear. Every officer aboard the alien ships knew that the humans were unlike any other species they had encountered. They were patient, precise, and intelligent, but most importantly, they were unpredictable. That unpredictability created unease that no fleet, no weapon, and no training could easily overcome. The humans, on the other hand, continued their deliberate pace. Sensors scanned every ship, every movement, and every communication signal. The crew's eyes and minds were alert, processing data, interpreting subtle cues, and preparing for anything that might happen next. They had learned from decades of training that information was as powerful as firepower, and they used it to the fullest. Every alien maneuver, every adjustment, every small action was recorded and analyzed. The humans were not just observing, they were learning, and they were teaching. The alien commanders debated strategy. "We cannot let them advance further into this sector," one said. "We must demonstrate control, show our authority, and test their limits." Another officer argued the opposite. "If we provoke them, it could be catastrophic. We do not understand their capabilities, and we risk escalating the situation. We must act with caution." The debate continued for hours, reflecting the deep uncertainty that the humans had created. They had forced the aliens to think differently, to question assumptions, and to act carefully where once they had acted with confidence. In the midst of this tension, the humans remained calm. They had anticipated this exact scenario, and their approach was deliberate. By not reacting aggressively, they created a psychological advantage. The aliens, unsure of what the humans were capable of, hesitated with every move. The humans had shown power without violence, demonstrating control, intelligence, and restraint. That restraint was a lesson in itself, one that the aliens would not forget. One alien vessel attempted to move closer, hoping to communicate directly. As it approached, subtle energy fields from the human ship made its systems falter. Engines stuttered, sensors went offline temporarily, and communication channels became unreliable. Panic spread among the alien crew, who realized that the humans were capable of influencing their technology without firing a single weapon. The message was clear: do not test us. We are ready, precise, and in control. The humans, however, did not gloat or celebrate. Their approach remained disciplined, calm, and focused. Every action was intentional, every adjustment calculated. They understood that in space, appearances and perception mattered just as much as firepower. By showing restraint and precision, they reinforced the impression of capability, forcing the aliens to respect them even without aggression. Alien officers began to whisper among themselves. "They are not reckless," one said. "They are not aggressive. Yet they are capable of overwhelming us without a single shot. How can we predict them?" Another officer nodded. "We cannot. Their strategy is unlike anything we have seen. They are patient, intelligent, and precise. That makes them far more dangerous than any aggressive fleet we have faced." The recognition spread slowly, like a shadow over the alien command, leaving unease in its wake. The humans continued to monitor and analyze. Every alien decision, every hesitation, every adjustment was recorded. The crew understood that understanding their potential adversaries was more important than attacking them. Knowledge would give them power in future encounters, and patience would ensure safety. Their mission was not conquest, it was presence, observation, and deterrence. Yet, in achieving these goals, they had already altered the balance of power in the sector. A new message came from the alien command. It was a cautious communication, polite but firm. "We recognize your capabilities. We seek to avoid conflict. Clarify your intentions." The humans responded with calm precision, stating that they did not seek aggression, but would defend themselves if threatened. The message was short, clear, and authoritative. It conveyed presence, readiness, and strategy, without threatening escalation. The alien fleets absorbed the human response carefully. For the first time, they realized that humanity's strength lay not in numbers, weapons, or intimidation, but in intelligence, calm decision-making, and precise action. Humans had demonstrated that restraint could be as powerful as aggression, and that perception of capability could outweigh brute force. The lessons were sinking in, altering the way the aliens would approach not just this encounter, but any future interaction with humans. Throughout the sector, tension remained. The humans moved methodically, scanning and recording every detail. Their ship's presence alone had forced caution, re-evaluation, and hesitation across the alien fleets. Humans had not fired a single shot, yet they had achieved more than many aggressive fleets could have in a full battle. Their combination of intelligence, patience, and calm strategy had reshaped the situation entirely. Inside the human ship, the crew remained alert but composed. They understood the psychological impact of their actions. Every alien hesitation, every cautious maneuver, every moment of uncertainty had been a deliberate effect of their strategy. They had created influence without aggression, control without force, and respect without intimidation. That was the essence of their approach. Use intelligence and precision to shape the situation without unnecessary conflict. The alien fleet began to recognize a simple truth. Humanity had arrived, and it could not be underestimated. They had assumed humans were primitive, limited, and predictable. Instead, they had encountered a species that was disciplined, strategic, and unafraid to assert presence in subtle, deliberate ways. Every encounter had forced them to question assumptions and rethink strategy. Humans had achieved what no other species had done. They had reshaped perception through presence, patience, and precision. As the humans continued through the sector, they maintained constant observation of alien movements. They noted patterns in patrols, changes in communication channels, and subtle reactions to their presence. Every detail was recorded, analyzed, and stored for future use. They understood that preparation, knowledge, and strategic foresight were their greatest tools. The human crew was not just surviving, they were teaching, shaping, and influencing outcomes through intelligence alone. Alien commanders convened once more. "We have never faced a species like this," one said. "They are not reckless. They are not aggressive. Yet they are dangerous. Every assumption we made has been proven wrong. We must reconsider everything about humanity." Another officer added, "They do not fight the way we expect. They do not attack the way we expect. Their strategy is unlike anything we have seen. We must treat every encounter with caution, respect, and careful calculation." Meanwhile, the human crew continued their measured approach. They knew that leaving a lasting impression without escalating conflict was critical. They had achieved their goal, demonstrating capability, asserting presence, and gathering knowledge. The aliens had been forced to reconsider their assumptions, and that reconsideration itself was a form of influence. Humanity had made itself impossible to ignore. The human ship's journey through the sector was quiet yet commanding. Its presence had already changed tactics, protocols, and perceptions. The aliens had learned that provoking humans was dangerous, that assumptions were unreliable, and that calm, precise strategy could outweigh aggression. The humans had demonstrated restraint, intelligence, and foresight, and that demonstration had created a lasting impression. Even after the humans had moved beyond direct observation, the alien fleets remained cautious. Every officer remembered the calm, deliberate precision of the humans, the restraint they had shown, and the silent power they projected. Humanity had established a new standard, one that would shape decisions, strategies, and interactions for years to come. The encounter had been brief, but its impact was profound and lasting. The humans, aware of the significance of their mission, continued with calm confidence. They had proven that one ship, guided by skilled and disciplined officers, could influence fleets, reshape perceptions, and establish presence without conflict. Their approach combined intelligence, patience, and restraint, demonstrating that control could be achieved without aggression. They had shown that courage, strategy, and calm decision-making were just as powerful as weapons in numbers. By the time the human ship moved out of the sector, the alien fleets were left with a new reality. They had faced a species that could not be underestimated, that could assert presence without violence, and that could shape perceptions through intelligence and patience. The humans had proven that they could protect themselves, influence outcomes, and establish authority without firing a shot. Their reputation would precede them in every future encounter, and every decision in this sector would be informed by this single encounter. For the humans, the mission had been a complete success. They had gathered intelligence, asserted presence, and demonstrated capability without escalation. They had influenced alien fleets, reshaped assumptions, and proven that calm, deliberate strategy could achieve far more than aggression. Their journey had demonstrated that restraint, intelligence, and observation were powerful tools, capable of shaping the behavior of even the most confident adversaries. The alley. The humans had traveled far, and every moment had been a lesson in patience, observation, and strategy. By now, they had moved beyond the immediate presence of the alien fleets, yet their impact remained palpable. Even from a distance, the humans knew that every action they had taken, every subtle maneuver, and every measured pause had left a lasting impression. The galaxy had taken notice, whether it wanted to or not. The alien commanders could not stop thinking about the humans. Reports from their fleets filled the command center, describing the calm confidence of the human ship, the precision of its systems, and the way its crew had handled every challenge without aggression. They had witnessed restraint and intelligence in action, and it was unsettling. The humans had rewritten the rules of interaction simply by existing in a space that had once been under complete alien control. Inside the human ship, the crew moved with quiet focus. They checked systems, analyzed data, and reviewed every interaction with alien vessels. Nothing was left unexamined. Every observation was logged for future reference. Their training emphasized the importance of learning from every encounter, and the humans had taken this to the highest level. They knew that understanding their environment, their potential allies, and their potential adversaries was more important than demonstrating force. Knowledge was the most powerful weapon in the universe, and they had it in abundance. Even as they traveled deeper into space, the humans remained vigilant. Every sensor sweep, every data analysis, and every communication check was performed with precision. They understood that the universe was vast and unpredictable, and that danger could come from anywhere at any moment. Their calmness was not ignorance. It was preparation, discipline, and strategy in motion. The humans were ready for any eventuality, but they also knew that unnecessary aggression could lead to chaos. Their approach was always calculated, always measured, and always human. The alien fleets, meanwhile, were still processing what had happened. They had expected humans to be cautious, maybe even fearful, but instead they encountered control, confidence, and patience. The humans had forced the aliens to rethink centuries of assumptions about species, technology, and strategy. They had shown that intelligence and restraint could achieve more than overwhelming numbers or brute force. The humans had become a benchmark, a new standard for what a species could accomplish without violence. Communication channels within the alien fleets buzzed with discussion and debate. Officers analyzed every aspect of the encounter, from the humans' tactical movements to their subtle displays of power. "They are not aggressive," one officer said, "yet they have the ability to control situations in ways we cannot predict. We have never faced a species like this." Others agreed, adding that the humans' combination of patience, precision, and calm intelligence was unprecedented. For the first time, the aliens truly understood that underestimating humanity could be dangerous, perhaps catastrophic. The humans, aware of the alien reactions, continued to act with quiet authority. They did not celebrate their success, nor did they flaunt their power. Every decision was deliberate, every movement calculated. They understood the power of perception and the importance of restraint. By showing capability without aggression, they had established a reputation that would follow them across the galaxy. Their influence was invisible but undeniable. One of the senior officers on the human ship reflected on the journey so far. They thought about how far humanity had come, from a species confined to one planet to one capable of reaching distant regions of space with precision and strategy. They considered the lessons learned, the knowledge gained, and the influence exerted without firing a single shot. It was a testament to human ingenuity, discipline, and courage. The journey had proven that the greatest strength often lay not in weapons or firepower, but in intelligence, patience, and the ability to remain calm under pressure. The alien fleets continued to watch from a distance. They no longer saw the humans as just another species to monitor. They had become a presence that demanded respect, a force that could not be ignored. Every calculation, every strategy, and every decision in that sector now carried the memory of the human's precision, restraint, and control. The alien commanders realized that humanity had changed the rules without aggression, that one ship with a skilled and disciplined crew could alter the balance of power simply by existing and acting with purpose. The humans themselves remained, focused on the next phase of their mission. They had gathered intelligence, demonstrated capability, and influenced perception. Now they looked ahead, knowing that the universe was vast and filled with unknowns. They understood that patience, observation, and careful planning would continue to be their greatest tools. They moved forward with quiet confidence, aware of the weight of their actions and the potential consequences of every choice as they traveled. The crew reflected on the lessons of their journey. They had learned that power was not just about strength or numbers, but about control, strategy, and perception. They had seen how even the most confident opponents could be influenced by calm intelligence and precise action. They understood that restraint could be a weapon, that observation could be a shield, and that patience could shape the course of events more effectively than any assault. The humans also considered the broader implications of their journey. They were no longer just representatives of Earth. They were ambassadors of human ingenuity, courage, and strategy. Their actions had shown that humanity could navigate the unknown with intelligence and calm. They had established a reputation that would influence how other species perceive them for years to come. Every decision, every movement, and every interaction contributed to this legacy. The alien fleets, despite their distance, could not forget the lessons of the encounter. They had seen firsthand how humans could control a situation without conflict, influence perceptions without aggression, and establish presence without confrontation. Every officer in the alien command understood that future interactions with humanity would require caution, respect, and careful planning. The humans had proven that they were a species unlike any other, capable of altering outcomes with intelligence, strategy, and calm action. Back on the human ship, the crew continued their work. They scanned, analyzed, and prepared for whatever challenges might come next. They knew that the universe was unpredictable and that danger could appear at any moment. Yet they remained composed, confident in their abilities, and aware of the influence they had already exerted. They had demonstrated that humanity could navigate the unknown with precision and strategy, and they carried that knowledge forward with quiet determination. The humans' journey was not over, but they had already achieved something remarkable. They had shown that one ship, guided by a skilled and disciplined crew, could influence fleets, reshape perceptions, and establish presence without firing a shot. They had proven that courage, intelligence, and calm decision-making could achieve what brute force alone could not. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. As the human ship continued deeper into space, the crew remained vigilant. They knew that every encounter, every observation, and every decision mattered. They had proven their capabilities, established their presence, and earned respect. The universe had been reminded that humans were not reckless, not primitive, and not predictable. They were intelligent, strategic, and capable of precise action. They had demonstrated that influence could be achieved without violence, and that power often lay in knowledge, patience, and calm decision-making. The alien fleets, even after the humans had moved on, continued to adjust their strategies and protocols. Every officer remembered the calm authority of the humans, the precision of their actions, and the restraint they had shown. Humanity had become a standard against which future species would be measured, a reminder that intelligence and patience could reshape outcomes and command respect in ways that brute force never could. The humans, aware of the impact they had made, continued their journey with quiet confidence. They had completed their mission of observation, deterrence, and presence. They had influenced alien fleets, reshaped assumptions, and proven that restraint and intelligence could achieve far more than aggression. Every officer understood that their actions had set a precedent for humanity, one that would guide future encounters and ensure that the species would be respected wherever they traveled. By the time the human ship finally moved out of the sector completely, it had left behind a legacy that would last for generations. The alien fleets would remember the calm, deliberate, and precise nature of humanity. They had learned that provoking humans could be disastrous, that assumptions were unreliable, and that intelligence and strategy could achieve far more than weapons and numbers. The humans had arrived, and they had altered the perception of their species forever. Humanity had proven something extraordinary, that courage, intelligence, and calm action could change the course of events, influence the decisions of entire fleets, and establish presence without violence. The galaxy had been reminded that humans were not to be underestimated, and that one disciplined, strategic crew could achieve what many thought impossible. The humans had arrived, and they had done so with